Saturday, Saturday. It is. I think it's Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday. Man, it truly is Groundhog Day, boy. Just every day you sit there and you go, "What day of the week is this?" And all your benchmarks have disappeared. Before I get started today, I just want to give a shout out to the memory of John Lewis, one of the most remarkable men in our government, and especially in terms of civil rights and doing the right thing and standing up against authority when it had to be stood up against. He was a most remarkable human being, and he will be dearly missed. He was one of the great voices of light and reason, still remaining in our government, and it's a tremendous loss, but a tremendous legacy that he left behind. So John Lewis, rest in peace. You were quite a man. I had intended to do this song that I'm going to do today yesterday, and then the tooth issue came up, and there's no pain or anything involved. I suddenly realized that there was a veneer on this tooth, and the veneer broke. The tooth had already been ground down to accept, a dental procedure, but they told me when it was done that it would probably be good for 10 years. And that was a pretty healthy life expectancy for something like this. And we did it in '89. So I've gotten my money's worth out of it. There's no pain involved or anything. And it's just annoying. And it's that kind of thing. Like if you accidentally bite the inside of your cheek and it gets that little raised area or something like this, and then your tongue's playing with it. There's something different going on than there, and it has to somehow, your tongue has a mind of its own, and it's in there exploring. So I'm trying to just ignore this. I'll get to it, especially in a time like this where there's zero, income coming. I don't know if I really feel like running in and throwing away $1,500 or $2,000, whatever it costs to redo something like this. So we'll see. I'm just a cheap old bastard. I don't know, I guess, whatever. Sorry. The song I want to do today, it was from, I believe it's from Face Value. I think that's the album it was on with Phil Collins. But the performance that I'm playing to, it's easiest, I think, to deal with all this copyright stuff I'm having to deal with if I can find live performances that I've played on and play along with them as compared to the album performance. I don't know quite where all the bells and whistles and alarms go off, but so far I've only really had 3 problems out of all these videos, so it's not a big deal. I mean, and like with Her Town 2, I finally found a different performance. The only thing that was frustrating was by the time I got to that one, I'd already told stories and played it several different ways, so I was kind of just mentally fatigued with the song. I should have just gone and done another song and come back to it using that, but you kind of don't know until you get it up there and post it if there's going to be any issues or not. But with this stuff, I don't think I've had any issues. So this performance was from 1985 on the No Jacket Required tour, and we were in Melbourne, Australia on this, and the band for this was such a great tour and such a wonderful band. So I mean, it was Phil on vocals, some drumming, some keyboards. I mean, a guy can really do pretty much anything. Daryl Sturmer on guitar, myself on bass. Daryl and I were the background singers on that tour. Chester Thompson on drums and percussion, because there were percussive songs in it, so he was mixing it all up. He was covering lots of territory. And J. Peter Robinson on keyboards. And that was back in the old kind of like pre-MIDI days. So, I mean, when he was set up with like around 8 or 9 keyboards on stage, he had his hands full. It was a lot of stuff going on. And then the Phoenix Horns, Don Myrick and Louis Satterfield and Michael Harris and Romley Michael Davis, the Earth, Wind, and Fire horn section. And on this song, they're there, but Don Myrick is the featured soloist on this one and does just a beautiful job. Now, the thing was, at that time when you would go play Australia, there was a union rule, and I think it was a good rule for their union, but you would have to hire the same amount of union musicians that you're using in your band. You would have to employ Australian musicians too. And I mean, they could do anything. You know, you could just hire them. They could have, if you had 8 guys in the band, then 8 people would have to show up and be paid. Regardless, I mean, they could sit there and play cards, do whatever they wanted. But for this, we thought, what the hell? Peter put together charts, and we hired a string section that was the same number of people as the band. And we rehearsed them, and it was great. It was so much fun. They were into it, and they were a great section and great hangs. We all became really good friends. And so it's that string section on this, along with Peter supplanting it with his keyboards. And I believe on this one, Phil's playing piano on it. For his ballads and stuff, he knows what he's doing, and he really creates a pretty beautiful mood with that. But this is it's a very slow and very lamenting song of breakup. And this was really one of his deep songs. And there's not a lot, I mean, I'm just basically holding down the bottom on this one, which is a place I like to be. And there's a few moments, like with Don. There's a couple of hits in this that I'm going to focus on trying to get them, because it's, you know, when you're doing these things, the shows are so organic that there's so much eye contact between the players that you can do things. And if everybody's looking at each other and you give like a little heads up nod, everybody's on alert and grabs it. When you're just sitting here and not seeing anybody and stuff, it can be a little challenging trying to remember where these hits come in. But I'll go for it. And if for some reason I don't hit it, bad on me. Naughty. So the song is called If Leaving Me Is Easy. And it's a beautiful tune. So let's just go ahead and see where we are with this. It starts off with Don Myrick, a little leg for you there. Ooh. Miss Don. Hold on. If leaving me is easy. I mean, when you really sit and listen to the lyric of that, it's a pretty deep, moving song. It really exposes the soft underbelly of a relationship. And Phil was remarkable at that. I mean, most of the really great writers I've known. I mean, Joni Mitchell. Every time Joni would have any kind of a issue go on in her life, you knew, if nothing else, there was going to be a great song come out of it. James Taylor did a lot of those too. But they really, it's very hard for them to verbalize, like in company, about how they're feeling. But when they sit down with an instrument and start to lyrically put it together, they can really be quite vulnerable and expressive as to what's going on in their lives. So, but I loved it. That tour. The No Jacket Required tour was really one of the most magical tours I've ever done in my life. From the standpoint, when the tour started, we had no expectations of how big Phil was going to suddenly be. He was the drummer from Genesis, and he'd had some success starting up here. But man, as kind of crazy as Sussudio was, man, when that hit the airways, the whole dynamic of everything we were doing changed dramatically, because he suddenly went from being like another touring guy out there and doing what he does to like being one of the biggest artists in the world. And the tour reflected it, and the energy around it reflected it. I mean, we were having a great time no matter what. I remember going in, there's a place, a venue here in Pasadena where I live called Perkins Palace. It no longer exists. I think now it's like retail shops or something. But I remember going there to see Weather Report, got to see Jaco there, and have my brain melted watching him play. But I went and saw Phil's first tour in, I think, '81. He had called me to do the tour, and I couldn't because I was working with James Taylor at the time, so I couldn't do it. But I happened to be in town when he played at Perkins Palace, and I went and saw the show there with all the guys, and Mo Foster was playing bass on that tour. But just, it was just so beautiful and intimate and great, and the songs were great, and I loved it. And I just had hoped at that point that I would have an opportunity to work with Phil, since I couldn't do that one. And that's when he called me in '84 to do No Jacket Required, and we hooked up at that point, and it was great. But it was fun with Daryl and I singing background vocals. I mean, it was the smallest show Phil's ever done. I mean, we've usually had, it grew into bigger with percussion and other guitar, background singers and everything. But that first one was a pretty stripped down, like a bar band almost kind of vibe. And I loved it. I just loved it. But I've loved all of the tours. But, Brad Cole's done a magnificent job on keys since 1990, or he might have come in earlier than that, but I didn't. No, 90 was when he came in, and then I left for the 90s, and he continued on. But Peter Robinson was remarkable, and Phil and Peter were in Brand X together, and Peter moved on to do film score, and he's been very successful at film score. And then he's worked on projects. I've done a bunch of albums with Sean Phillips, and Peter and Sean are really good friends, and he was always involved in those projects. And but he's one of these guys that's meant he was funny, sharp on his feet. Louis Satterfield's daughter, she was in her 20s, I think, came out and joined us in Europe on the tour. And her name was spelled Damia, as I remember. And we got on the bus one of the first mornings, and Peter comes in and he looks over and he goes, "Oh, good morning, Damia." And she looks at him with an attitude and goes, "It's Damia." And he looks at her and he goes, "It's Pater." We almost fell off the bus. We were laughing so hard. I mean, he was and is. I mean, I just talked with him the other day. He's local, and he's still a monstrous musician and one of the funniest guys I've ever known in my life. I mean, a true character. So I'll give him a shout, see how he's doing. So I hope everybody's, doing okay. Thanks for, all the concern about my tooth. I'm glad it wasn't something where I needed a proctologist, because this could have gotten to be really an awful conversation with all of us. But it was fine. Everything's good. And And be safe. Be safe. You know, it's I just worry. I look out every day and I see people out there not taking care of themselves, and they're like a walking petri dish potentially. So let's all just try to see this through as best we can and give thanks to all of the healthcare workers, especially right now, who are working maxed out. Our hospitals here in California are coming to capacity, and they're going to have to make decisions as to life and death. And it's really, I can't imagine being put in that position of not being able to treat somebody who's not going to make it if you don't treat them, but they physically can't get them in. So scary times, really scary times. But and I'm looking forward to just throwing it out there again. My next clubhouse meeting with my live stream is going to be this coming Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. For all of you people that have joined the club, come on down, and we'll talk. I'm going to slow the chat window down this time so I can see more questions, because man, they were scrolling by like a F1 race car last time. It was kind of shocking to me since that was the first one, so I'm learning each time. And also, I've had a bunch of people ask me about swag. Are you ever going to do t-shirts and things like that? There's a shop now connected with the clubhouse where there's going to be stuff available. We've come up with some t-shirt designs and stuff for mugs and stuff. I mean, I got stuff all over my house that I've gotten, and every gig I've been on, I'm always out at the swag table, signing things for people, even though I've never had any swag of my own. And that's from Phil Collins to, Lyle Lovett to Judith Owen to, all these people I've toured with, Toto. I mean, there's always tons of swag. So I'm going to have some crap of my own out there, some swag for anybody interested. And then the one thing I'm going to do is I've scanned all my drawings, and I'm going to show those, but I posted some pictures on Facebook, and people said, oh man, I'd love to have that for my studio. So I think I'm going to do some limited pressings and personally signed by me. And I love these, these drawings. That was one of my great loves in my life, was working as an illustrator. And so those things are going to be popping up there too. So I'm looking at all kinds of options just to make this kind of fun and interesting for everybody. And if anybody has suggestions, just throw them out there. I'm open to pretty much anything. So have a great day. I will see you tomorrow, Sunday, and I'll find another song and some more stories for you. So until then, everybody, you take care. Bye-bye.